Today I'll be speedrunning through Stardew Valley 100 times to see how fast I can go, how much I can improve, and if I can get a world record. I don't get a world record. I'll be running the glitchless level 50 mines category, which means I need to get to level 50 in the mines as quickly as possible. The world record is currently 10 minutes and 14 seconds, so my goal is to get a time under 20 minutes. On run number 1, I was just trying to get a baseline, so I didn't watch any videos showing what you were supposed to do in the speed run. I was just going to level 50. The run starts with you sleeping for 4 days straight, waiting for the mines to open up. Then once you do get there, it's off to hitting rocks trying to get a ladder. On the way to the mines, I picked up as much food as I could because I knew that energy would eventually become a problem the lower down we got. Floors 1 through 10 are pretty easy because the enemies there don't hit very hard, so you can just ignore them and mainly focus on rocks. I got super lucky with the ladder placements on these first couple floors, and I was honestly keeping up with a lot of the records even though I wasn't trying, so this made me feel really good about the rest of the run. I ran out of energy on level 13, so I went back home to sleep and get my energy back to full because I didn't want to eat any of my food yet. I figured I was going to need it for the later levels. Around level 11, you start seeing a lot more cave flies, which are super annoying because they follow you around everywhere and they're really hard to get away from. In a casual playthrough, I would just stand there and keep hitting the bug until it dies, but I figured that standing still was probably not the ideal method for a speed run. I ended up spending forever on floor 17 because there are a ton of rocks and just as many enemies, so I wasn't really sure what to do. I guess I stayed in there so long that this green mist came and all of a sudden 6 cave flies decided to gang up on me and make me pass out. I ended up losing my sword, which definitely would have been a reset, but I didn't really want to reset on my first attempt and at least wanted to make it to level 50, so I just used the rest of the time for practice. I ended up making some bombs to get to level 20 quicker, though I did realize eventually that this was not smart and I probably should have saved the bombs for the later levels. Levels 20 through 29 were not that bad, but I was having a lot of trouble keeping my health up, so I ended up eating all of the food that I had. Level 30 is where things start to get really bad. On levels 30 through 39, everything is dark, so the only places that you can actually see is where there is a light source, which is very rare. Ideally, you would want something like a glow ring to eliminate all the area around you, but that is a random drop, so you can't really count on anything like that. This difficulty is in addition to the stone golems that are introduced on these levels, which are enemies that follow you around and take a ton of hits to kill. Up to this point, I was on pretty good pace for my first run, making it to level 30 in about 23 minutes, but levels 30 through 39 are really where things fell apart. I would constantly either run out of energy or health or both, and I ended up spending about 20 minutes just trying to get to level 40. The 40 levels were technically easier than the 30 levels because I could actually see what was happening, but a new issue arose in the fact that the rocks now take 3 hits to break instead of just 1. This made energy a huge issue, and if you don't find a ladder early enough, you're gonna pass out or have to go home to go to sleep, which I did multiple times throughout these levels. I did end up finding a wood mallet on level 48, 2 levels from the end. That would have been nicer a lot longer ago, but I'm glad to have it now. Through some lucky ladder spawns on the last couple levels, I was able to make it to level 50 with a 59:23. There was of course a ton of improvement to be made, but for a first attempt, I didn't think it was that bad. Definitely not the worst. Oh, it would be last place on speedrun.com, so it literally would be the worst. On run number 2, I actually prepared myself by watching the world records and reading up on some of the information that the world record holders had shared. From there, I learned that beach and forest farms are the 2 best types of farms. Forest farm because there's never anything in your path when you're leaving your house, and beach farm because it has the possibility to drop some nice things like cherry bombs or food. The next strategy that I didn't really think about was that when you go to the mines, you need to make sure that you have a good luck day to increase the ladder spawn rate. To do this, you check the TV in the morning and see if you have good luck. If it's anything other than good luck, you go to sleep until the next good luck day. On run number 2, I had 5 bad luck days in a row and wasted an entire minute sleeping just trying to find a day that the spirits were in good humor. I eventually did find a good luck day though, so I headed out to the mines and realized that my menuing was also really bad. I was very slow at moving items around and picking and throwing stuff away. These first 10 levels went pretty bad. I ended up getting to level 10 in about the time it took the world record to actually finish the run, and I was just getting really bad luck on the rocks. I wasn't sure if there was some kind of strategy that I was missing with hitting the rocks, because from what I could tell, people were just kind of randomly going at them and just getting lucky, though I felt like there was something that I must have been missing. I ended up getting pretty lucky on level 10 with a femur weapon coming in the chest, and that is one of the 2 best weapons that you can get in one of these runs. Your main goal for these first 15 levels is to hit about about 20 copper ore so that you can bring up your mining XP so you can get to level 1. This is for 2 reasons. First off, when you get to level 1 mining, you get the ability to craft cherry bombs, which are basically essential for levels 40 through 49. The other reason is because when you level up a skill, if you pass out and wake up the next day, you'll have full energy as opposed to half energy. This is extremely important because the fastest way to get home and replenish your energy is just by passing out in the mines as opposed to running home. So if you pass out, you want that full energy to be back. I got much better luck in terms of enemies, so I made it down to level 30 fairly quick, but ran out of energy on level 32, so I had to pass out and go through another cycle. The best case scenario is only passing out one time to get that level 1 mining and then getting down to level 50 on your second time in the mines, but that really depends on how lucky you are with getting food. Since I had to spend so much time sleeping, I ended up going back to the mines on Spring 17, which is part of salmonberry season, which means I would be pretty good on food, but I also only had 20 more levels to go, so it wasn't really that helpful. Levels 30 through 39 once again weren't great, but I was improving from before, and I knew that there was still a lot of room for improvement. I ended up on floor 40 with 17 bombs, which is way more than you really need, and I probably could have used them more on the 30 levels, but I really didn't want to run out, especially getting that far into the run. And I'm glad I did, because I ended up with only 1 bomb left at the end, and ended off time with a 32:16, which is nearly half the time of that first run. This gave me a lot of motivation for run number 3, though I was still having a lot of trouble finding ladders, especially on floor number 13, where I spent like over a minute just trying to find that ladder. On this run, I realized that I was missing the rocks a lot because I was trying to go fast and ended up misclicking in areas where I shouldn't be, which wastes energy which I could have used on later levels. This becomes more important as we get down in lower levels and also when we start adding in new techniques to make us go faster. By the time I got to level 30, I ended up finding a glow ring, which was absolutely huge for these levels. Being able to see really is a game changer. On this particular run, I didn't have a great weapon but did have the glow ring, and on other ones I had good weapons but no glow ring, so I felt like if I ever had a situation where both of those came up, it would be a really great run. Attempt number 3 probably would have been a personal best by 1 second if I hadn't accidentally misclicked when I was trying to go down the ladder and ended up getting killed by bats. As I'm sure you can assume, I did not continue this run. Run number 5 taught me about the importance of copper and bomb placement. I ended up on level 45 with no more bombs left, so I just had to continuously hit every rock that was in my path until it was able to break open a ladder. I think that I was used to overcompensating with the bombs, so I figured that I didn't have to waste my time quite as much with getting copper, which clearly was a mistake. Run number 10 was on pace to be a really great run because I ended up on level 40 in about 24 minutes. But earlier I had picked up a dagger weapon instead of my sword weapon, which does not have good pushback, so when you have large groups of enemies like these dust sprites, it can get very easy to get overwhelmed. And killed. Like I did. I ended up losing my bombs for passing out, but I was still fairly determined because at this point I still had about 7 minutes to get a personal best. But yeah, no, that sword does not work. I don't think I ever picked up a dagger anywhere past this point. Thankfully, run number 12 made up for this almost immediately after by giving me a new personal best. The first 20 levels flew by, and I ended up making it to the second chest under 10 minutes, which gave me a wooden club, which is the best weapon that you can get for this run. It hits extremely hard, and with some techniques that I didn't know at the time but eventually learned, it can basically one-shot any enemy, so it is a great weapon to have. The run of course wasn't anywhere near perfect. I had to end up passing out for a second time just 5 levels past level 20, which definitely wasted a lot of time, but I still wanted to make sure that I was all good because I was on pretty good pace. Once again, levels 30 through 39 were where I spent most of my time, but I did start employing a technique where I would use a torch to see if I could find a ladder anywhere else. It was a little bit slower because I would have to hover over it in my inventory to equip it, but it was better than going around in the dark not knowing what to look for. The last 10 levels were relatively good, though I did spend a lot of time on level 44. I nearly cleared the entire place out before I could find the ladder, but other than that, it went pretty well. And so with a fortunate natural ladder on level 49, I was able to end off time with a new personal best of 26:39. A really nice 6-minute save, which I hope I could bring down by another 6 minutes so I could reach my sub 20 goal. This is where things started to go pretty bad. By run 18, I was doing pretty well and feeling pretty confident, but I was also playing not great when it comes to combat. I could hit rocks like nobody's business. That was not the hard part. It was just fighting the enemies and trying not to pass out was getting to be a little bit much. On this run, I was on pace to do even better than my personal best up to this point, but I got way too overwhelmed by enemies and ended up passing out and losing my sword, so I just gave up. I wasn't going to continue on after that. Since it was now run 20, I decided that I would finally learn something that I had been a bit scared to learn up to this point. Animation canceling. Animation canceling is basically required to be done if you want to have any shot at a world record or even a place higher than like 50th. Basically what you have to do is press a certain combination of buttons and it stops your animation from showing the entire thing so you can move on to the next animation quicker. That means instead of having to watch your character slowly go through the entire swinging animation for a pickaxe, all you have to do is watch them barely bring it down and you can move on to the next area. This is basically essential. It also looks deceivingly easy, but the timing is pretty tough to get down, so I spent almost all of run 20 just trying to make this work. I'm not sure if this was actually true or just my brain messing with me, but I felt like the animation canceling timing was different for going left to right versus up and down. I could not seem to get it. I'm very conflicted about run number 21 because I was going crazy on this run. I'm talking about making it past the first 25 levels in under 10 minutes crazy. I felt like there was nothing that could stop me. I was stocked up on coal, I was stocked up on copper, all I had to do was get to level 30. Easier said than done. I honestly don't know what happened, because when I got to level 29, it was an infested level, which if you don't know means you have to kill all of the enemies before a ladder is able to spawn. And I thought that I did that. I killed every enemy that I could see and nothing happened. I ran around multiple times, tried to find something, a bug spawned, I killed it after that, and then still absolutely nothing. Watching back, I get the feeling that there was a Dougie in the sand, which are enemies that you can't see unless you walk over them, so maybe I missed something like that, but yeah, I spent like 5 full minutes on this floor and ended up just leaving and giving up after this point. As I'm sure most of you would do, I ended up giving up for the night. I didn't want to try to do this anymore and decided just to come back tomorrow, which was a great idea because on run 26 I got another personal best. The beach farm finally paid off by giving me a supply crate that had some cherry bombs in it, which was absolutely massive because I could either be more liberal with using my cherry bombs or I didn't have to get as much copper. Either way, it is a huge time save. I was doing great on food and energy, and I was even able to make it from level 30 to level 40 in 3 minutes, which is crazy for me. Once I hit level 40, I started to be a lot safer as I was going through because I knew that this could be a personal best, so I took my time a lot more with placing bombs and hitting slimes. If I really wanted to be more risky with playing, this probably would have been a really great run, but like I said, I just wanted to be safe up to this point. I got fairly bad luck with level 47 being an infested level, as these typically take a lot longer, especially whenever I'm killing slimes one by one because I didn't want to die, but I was still able to end off time with a 20 minutes and 50 seconds. I also had like 11 bombs left over, so if I would have used them even more often, I probably could have ended this run even sooner than that, but I was still really happy with this. And I must have been on some kind of roll because I was on pace to keep up with my previous record, not beat it, but at least go around 20 minutes. But once again, my poor playing in combat was coming through on this. It seems like every time I would get to level 40, I was barely fighting for my life and had like 1 health, so if I got hit once, I would die, like I did on level 49. I knew if I wanted to get that sub 20 minute run, I was really gonna have to work on my combat, so that's what I did for the next couple runs. I wish I could say more, but up to run like 57, I was barely even finishing these things. I didn't really want to waste my time if I knew that I wasn't going to get anywhere close to a personal best, so I would end up just going a little bit far in, realizing I couldn't do it, and then just starting a new run. Run 57 ended up being a little bit over 23 minutes, but really isn't great in the grand scheme of things, but honestly, I was just glad to finish a run and have a time that was reasonable. The tragedy doesn't stop there though, because on run 59, I was on crazy pace. I was down to level 45 in under 18 minutes, so there was basically no way for me to lose. Unless I died. Which I did. Also on level 47, my cat jumped up on my desk and started typing something, but it was hidden by my timer, so we'll never truly know what she was trying to tell us. But the worst part about this is that I was hyper-focused on finding that ladder, so much so that I was not looking at my health, not looking at the fact that I had 4 consumables that could have brought up my health, and instead was just looking to see where that ladder was going to go on that last level, which ultimately was my downfall. This one really hurt. If I just would have played a little bit safer, I almost definitely could have gotten a sub 19 minute run as opposed to a sub 20, but I was just playing stupid and I realized that I really needed to focus up for these next couple runs. I went back and watched an 1.5 hour long tutorial on how to do a Mines 50 speedrun and learned some pretty good information. Apparently the enemies on each floor give a flat 15% chance of dropping a ladder. This is not affected at all by your luck, so it can sometimes be in your best interest to only kill enemies first before hitting any rocks. I'm not really going to pretend like I understand the rock RNG, but the person who made the tutorial said that your chances of a ladder spawning from a rock go up by 4% if all of the enemies in the area are dead. This to me gave me a strategy, which was seeing how many rocks were on the floor versus how many enemies were there. If there's only one monster and a ton of rocks, it obviously makes more sense to go after the enemy first for that flat 15% chance and also the extra 4%. But as more enemies start to come through, you're not really sure which one would be better, so I just kind of played it by ear. I also learned that if you have a weapon that can be slammed down as opposed to blocking, if you slam it down and press C over and over again, it gives you way more hits than it's intended to have, and that basically one-shots every enemy. I used this technique a lot on run number 63 and ended up making it to level 40 in under 18 minutes, so I was absolutely ready to smash that personal best if I had focused on enough copper and had the ability to craft cherry bombs. Yeah, so with this new focus on enemies, I was now neglecting the copper ore, which, like I mentioned before, is required to bring up your mining experience, which is required to get you cherry bombs. So I had to go back home, sleep so that I could upgrade, and then ended up going back a little bit later. I still ended off time with a 22:18, but this could have been so much better if I just played a little bit smarter and focused on copper as well as the enemies, but I made sure to make a mental note of that for my next runs. Run 70 was probably the best luck that I had on any of these attempts up to this point because I got a wooden club all the way on level 3. This is a weapon that you might get on level 10, but more often than not get on level 20 if you even do get it, so having it this far down was really good. And it was a fine run. I ended up dying on level 48, but still wasn't even going to get a sub 20 anyway. I felt kind of bad that this luck was wasted on somebody like me who could never get anywhere close to a world record. I know I sound discouraged by this point, and honestly I kind of was, but luckily run 81 made me change my ways. This was not a particularly lucky run, and sure, I had learned new things like how to pick up food faster, and I really got better at animation canceling, but nothing about this seemed like it was going to be anything incredible. And honestly, watching back the footage, nothing really stands out to me as being something that definitively made this run. Honestly, I was just playing really well. I feel like everything that I had learned up to this point was coming together. I now knew the optimal spot to place bombs, and I knew how to animation canceling without accidentally missing the input and not actually breaking the rock. It all just seemed to work out really well. By the time I made it to floor 40, I once again was running really low on health, which was scary, so it made me play a lot safer, but it seemed like every time I placed a bomb, there was a ladder right behind it. This luck, along with me playing well, ended up getting me a 1952, which meant I had beat my goal of getting a sub 20-minute run. This would end up putting me at 49th place on the leaderboard, which honestly, I'm happy with. This run is highly dependent on luck, so I wasn't really that worried about my placement, and instead I was just glad to beat my own self-imposed goal. I did end up finishing the last 19 runs, but they really weren't anything special, so instead I'll take the time to say thank you for watching this video, subscribe if you enjoyed it, and definitely let me know if you want to see me do anything similar to this in the future, because this was actually a lot of fun.